Hey everybody, it's GombletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'm going to be playing another Premier Draft of Throne of Eldraine. Without further ado, let's scoop up our super fun rare. Clackbridge Troll is a 5-mana 8/8 trample haste. When it enters the battlefield, you're giving your opponent 3 goats, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, your opponent may sacrifice a creature. If they do, they get to tap the troll, you gain 3 life, and you draw a card. So no matter what this is doing, it's putting in some work. It's either getting you a little bit of card draw while your opponent keeps the troll off of their face, or it is sending in as an 8/8 trampler, which is pretty dang huge. Obviously, it's bad if your opponent immediately removes it, then they just get a bunch of goats for free, but anytime your opponent doesn't have the immediate removal for it, you can get some good value off this card, and we're going to play around with it today. So Clackbridge Troll, pretty easy pack 1, pick 1 here. Alright, pack 1, pick 2, we have a Reeve Soul, which is a fine follow-up to a Clackbridge Troll. Destroy a creature with power 3 or less. It's not the most flexible removal ever, but it's pretty cheap. It's not bad at all. There's also a Turn into a Pumpkin in blue, which is pretty good interaction, even without the Adamant, being able to bounce an on-land permanent and draw a card at instant speed. Pretty sweet. In green, there's Beanstalk Giant, which I have a lot of fun with, and I might just roll with that for the purposes of having fun. I am very much a Timmy. I love ramp decks, and Beanstalk Giant's exactly the kind of card that is my jam. It has the built-in ramp spell, the adventure there, to tutor out a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle, and then that land is going to help you reach the 7 mana cost of the Beanstalk Giant itself, which is just a gigantic creature, power toughness equal to the number of lands you control. So I don't know if Beanstalk Giant's the best card here. It's probably like Turn into a Pumpkin, maybe Reeve Soul to stay in black, but I'm going to go Beanstalk Giant. This card's just super fun to me. Alright, and looks like we get to kind of narrow in on a rampy strategy here if we pick up a Thunderous Snapper. This is going to be difficult to cast if we want to play this in the same deck as Clackbridge Troll, but in a ramp deck with a lot of high mana value cards, this could give us a lot of card draw, so that's pretty exciting to me. I don't see much else that's super sweet in here. I guess even in a ramp deck, you have to consider how many cards am I really going to have that cost more than 5? Even in a dedicated ramp deck, actually I'm not going to have that many cards that cost 5 mana value or greater. This might actually be a little too narrow to justify going for the quadruple green mana cost here. That really pushes us off of the Clackbridge Troll. It is fun though, it is the kind of deck I want to go into, but yeah, I'm not actually sure I'm going to get that much card draw off of it. I might just go for the Reaper of Night here. I've had some pretty great success with this card lately. The Harvest Fear adventure into just a gigantic creature at the top end has played quite well for me in previous drafts of the format. Pulling some cards out of your opponent's hand and then dropping a massive threat now that they're out of removal. We've got an Ardenvale Tactician here as definitely one of the best cards, a flyer that can also tap some stuff down, and a Doom Foretold, which is interesting. Make each player sacrifice a card every turn. Whenever somebody can't, they discard a card, lose 2 life, you draw a card, gain 2, get a 2/2. If you're a deck where you know you can do that more often than your opponent, that's pretty strong. Pretty weak pack here. Overall, I think everything in like the bottom row is pretty bad. It's probably Tactician, but maybe Doom Foretold? I'm gonna go Tactician. Doom Foretold seems a little, I don't know, a little risky to me. I really don't want to be the player who cracks a Doom Foretold on themselves. I feel like I will be, because my deck has not really started as a deck that's going to have a bunch of cheap creatures right now. It's a bunch of really big, expensive ones. So if we're going into black-white, Youthful Knight could be good. Black-white tends to have a lot of knights. It could be some knight tribal. However, there's also a Foulmire Knight in just mono-black that's a pretty good deal. Draw a card, lose a life, and then you get a 1/1 Death Touch to trade into something big on blocks. So I can just roll Foulmire Knight, stick to black here. We're still deciding between green or white as our second color. Seems fine to me. But we're pretty much definitely in black. There are no white cards here. Both of these blue cards are solid. Charmed Sleep is blue's removal spell for the format, and Witching Well, it's pretty good. You get to scry 2 and then draw 2 cards later, so it's a good card advantage play. I don't think these black cards are very good. Yeah, these black cards don't seem great. I'm not in love with either of these green cards. They're both for like really, really aggressive decks, which doesn't look like what our green-black deck would end up being. It'd be much more slower and grindy, ideally. Just gonna take a random Witching Well here. Just a pretty solid blue card, one of the strongest cards in the pack. Got a Gingerbrute here, a little food golem we can attack with in the early game and gain some life with later. Also gives us a way to get damage in even if our opponent has infinite blockers. Fits into any deck we play. There's also Fairy Guide Mother, which is a really good Gift of the Fae adventure for trying to find lethal late game. Like that Fairy Guide Mother a lot. The same blue cards in this pack as the last pack. There's an Eye Collector, which if you care a lot about mill can be fine, but don't really right now. Gingerbrute or Fairy Guide Mother is what I'm going to say. I'm going to go Fairy Guide Mother. Now, a Fierce Witch Stalker. Pick 8. We have not seen a lot of green cards in these recent packs. Maybe there just have been pretty weak cards in the packs in general. But Fierce Witch Stalker is one of the best green commons in my opinion. A 4-mana 4/4 trample that also gives you a food. So maybe green-black is going to work out for us. We'll find out soon enough. Some solid black cards here, the Reaper of Night, and then all of the non-basic lands in the set are pretty solid if they are in your primary color, the color that you're going to have like 9 sources of. Gingerbread Cabin, less interesting, because green is looking like our secondary color here, where we'll have less forests than swamps, but it's still probably the pick here. I don't think Festive Funeral is very good. It's way too inconsistent of a removal spell, unless you are a dedicated mill strategy, and even then, I feel like you can find better removal in blue-black. Yeah, I'm just going to take Gingerbread Cabin. Wield the turn into a pumpkin. Oof. That is a sign for blue. Do we just take the Witch's Cottage, or do we take the turn into a pumpkin because we wield it all the way around? I think I'd take the turn into a pumpkin. And just not be too massively committal here, because yeah, we're seeing some good blue stuff nice and late. Moonlit Scavengers is pretty great because this is a format with food tokens, so it's really easy to trigger having an artifact or enchantment on board. So 6 mana 4/5, not good, but 6 mana 4/5 bounce a card, pretty solid deal. You can consistently do that, and it's not that hard to do so. Corridor Monitor's fine, it's really high toughness for the cost. The untap can be helpful. Maybe we are pushing into a potential blue deck here. I don't think either of these cards are good. And Halberd is only if you're really aggressive. Okay, well, we got past a bunch of solid blue stuff late, and now we've opened up a blue mythic rare that is very powerful. Brazen Borrower. This is going to give us the adventure Petty Theft, allowing us to bounce a non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. And then the creature itself, which is a 3-mana 3/1 flyer with flash. It can only block other creatures with flying, but that is a great high-power evasive threat for a very cheap cost. So it really puts a pretty quick clock on your opponent, and they're going to have to deal with the Borrower or find some way to block it to not die pretty quickly, especially because it has that built-in Petty Theft to slow your opponent down even more. So Brazen Borrower is an excellent mythic rare, and we're just going to take it here because we've taken a few pretty solid blue cards. Moonlit Scavengers turn into a pumpkin and Witching Well here to have that as a possibility. And now we're really anything between blue, black, and green. I don't think white's going to pan out, and we're definitely not red. But blue, black, green, we'll figure out where we're going in this pack. We do see a Bake Into a Pie here as probably the strongest card in the pack. 4 mana to destroy a creature and get a food token. Giant Killer's pretty strong as well, but again, we are definitely lower on white cards than any other color that we've actually taken. So that is probably not going to be it. Slaying Fire is pretty strong too, but we don't have a single red card yet. It'd be really difficult to hop into red at this point. I think I'm just taking Bake Into a Pie, seeing if we can commit into maybe blue-black here. We don't really have the mill archetype going on right now, which is what blue-black is sort of focused on, but we do have some very powerful cards in the color pair. May end up with a similar deck to that one I had a couple drafts ago that was just kind of blue-black stuff, blue-black nonsense. That being said, there's nothing good in this pack. Rimrock Knight is pretty powerful in an aggressive red deck, but it's kind of the one thing we haven't drafted anything for yet. Other than that, for green-red monsters, Grumgully's good, and for a very, very heavy green deck, Yorvo can be quite strong. But this pack is kind of just empty for us, unfortunately. I guess I just take the Yorvo. Probably doesn't work out, but we're literally missing out on absolutely nothing if we don't take Yorvo. Okay, some good green cards here and nothing in blue this time. This is getting really awkward. We really have to figure things out soon, but Okame Adversary is a pretty great card. 4 mana for a 2/3 Death Toucher, and it lets you draw a card every time it deals combat damage to a player, which is really, really good. If you end up playing against a green deck, that's where this card's absurd. It's a 2 mana 2/3 Death Touch with that ability. I think Okame Adversary is sweet. Garenbrig Paladin also pretty sweet. Can't be blocked by small creatures, so basically can't be chump blocked. Pretty awesome, but I'm going to go Okame Adversary. Wicked Guardian's the best black card in this pack. I think that's pretty solid too. But we'll take that green card here. And there's one okay blue card, the Witching Well. It's one pretty great green card, but it's very restrictive, quadruple green. We do have a triple green card already, so maybe we're trying to push that way. I think this is the strongest card in the pack. A 4 mana 5/5 is ridiculous. Can't be blocked by knights or walls. The ability to not be blocked by knights is already, that's pretty relevant, but the ability to not get blocked by walls is not that relevant in this format. There's a few, but most of them are really bad and unplayable, like Roving Keep. But I'll just take the Rampart Smasher. And then a Fierce Witchstalker gets passed to us. Okay, we're trying to play a really heavy green deck here. So we'll take the best card in the pack that's also in green. Actually, Redcap Melee might be the best card in the pack. 4 damage to a creature planeswalker for only 1 mana is great. However, you do have to sacrifice a card. Sacrifice a land if you shoot a non-red card. Still seems pretty good to me. But yeah, Fierce Witchstalker very, very close to that power level. And keeps us leaning towards mono green, which is looking like where we want to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green cards. Okay, we kind of have to just take Twinville Treefolk here. The only card that we're taking that's good that we're passing is, or the only card we're passing that's any good is Searing Barrage. Mystical Dispute is fine, but the rest of this is not. Sanctuary is really good if you're heavy blue, but I don't think we will be. Okay, Rosethorn Acolyte's probably going to be incredibly important for our deck, because we're going to be playing a deck with as many green sources as possible, but we've kind of swapped towards this quote-unquote mono-green deck late enough into the draft that it's going to be impossible for us to be literally mono-green, so we have to play at least a little bit of another color. So the ability to use Seasonal Ritual to turn a green mana into a non-green mana, and then later have a mana dork on board that can add a mana of any color, is probably going to be very, very helpful for hitting whatever our second color ends up being. It's probably black. Foulmire Knight, Bake into a Pie, Clackbridge, Troll Reaper of Night in black. Maybe it's blue. I'm not 100% sure yet, so I'll take the Gingerbread Cabin over the Noble or the Witching Well, but we'll see. Take another Gingerbread Cabin. We're going to have a lot of green sources in this deck, I can tell you that. Now a Garenbrig Squire, because that is the only card we know we can definitely cast turn 2. Although I guess Inquisitive Puppet's a fine little chump blocker and it scries and stuff. That's kind of interesting. Maybe Puppet's actually good. It's kind of weird. Very, very weird looking card there. I already have good 4-drops in green. I really want more cheap plays. Garenbrig Carver doesn't really fit that role. I'll just take a Noble in case we are black-green. Another 2-drop creature is going to be more important to us. And another 4-drop. And what do we have here in the final pack? Kind of another pack with literally nothing for us. Animating Fairy if we went green-blue. Garenbrig Squire. I guess Okame Ranger's castable, because we're going to be heavy green, but 4 mana for 2 1/1s and then 4 mana for a 2/2. Sure, it's got a decent ability, but still, that seems like a pretty bad rate. I'm going to say Garenbrig Squire for now, but then I'm going to look at blue versus black. 5 blue cards, 5 black cards. This is going to be a train wreck. I'm going to take Animating Fairy here and just still not decide between blue and black. Another Bake into a Pie. That might finally decide it for me. Probably taking that bake into a pie. Blue gives us better early game plays, but black is going to give us double bake into a pie here. I think it's probably that. Could take the Wildwood Tracker, but that probably wheels. Only got like 3 cards to trigger Thunderous Snapper still. Okay. No green in this pack. However, there is a Clockwork Servant, which if we spend triple green on this, it's a 3-mana 2/3 that draws us a card when it enters the battlefield, which is a very good deal. So I will take that. Gingerbroot's also fine. Malevolent Noble's fine. Okay, no green here either. Triple blue. Oof. Hitting all the difficult mana costs here. There's not even a playable black card. I'm not going to play Memory Theft or Borrow Witches. I got like no knights in here. I guess I have 1. I have Yorvo. It's the best blue card, Overwhelmed Apprentice probably, but that's because it's a good mill card. We just want a card that slows our opponent down more than that, like a Queen of Ice. It's definitely not Gadwick. We cannot cast that thing. Trail of Crumbs. Alright, well, the green cards all vanished, and then there was an absolutely incredible green card. When this enters the battlefield, we get a food token, and every time we sack a food, we can pay 1 extra mana to turn that food into card draw as well, letting us draw a permanent from the top 2 cards of our library into our hand. So even if this just hits land, making the food tokens 3 mana to gain 3 and draw land is ridiculous. Trail of Crumbs is an awesome, awesome card, and I'm super happy to see it there. Did not think we were going to get anything along that quality after seeing no green cards those past couple packs. I'll just take the green card here. Not a great one, but it's fine. Mereleaf Rider. There's no black or green here. Oh dear. Oh, Long Johnson. Oh, Don Piano. If I end up having to play green-blue, I don't have much removal, so I might have to play Frogify. Which is far from ideal. Okay, now we can take a Wildwood Tracker just because it's in green. It's a 1-mana 2/2 if you have another non-human out, so maybe not as bad as it looks. Usually 1-mana 1/1s are just horrible, but we'll see. Alright, we did wheel a Wildwood Tracker, that's good. Up the amount of green cards in the deck. We have 3 lands, which means we have 29 cards right now, which means we get to cut 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guess we're green-blue. Yep, we have 8 blue cards, but 6 black cards. So green-blue it is, unless I throw in the Halberd and the Roving Keep to play black instead. But the other thing is my black cards are more color restrictive. I have 4 double black cards. Whereas in blue, I only have 1 card that needs double blue. So green-blue is what we're doing. Alright. I mean, we've got a lot of big plays. We've got some bomb power in here. But the mana is certainly going to be a bit awkward. Yeah, this is actually kind of sweet. This is actually kind of sweet. For as much of a sort of train wreck as it felt like, when you just look at the final product, the final deck that we've ended up with, it's a little hard to tell that the draft was as much of a train wreck as it was near the end. It almost looks like very little went wrong in the draft. When you just look at this pile of cards, you're like, yeah, that seems like a solid deck. Like a decent pile. Little low on removal. That's definitely the biggest problem. We have like no removal without these bake into a pies. Signpost Scarecrow might actually be playable in here because we've got some difficult mana costs. Trying to hit as much green mana as we are. Quarter Monitor, Frogify, Witching Well, Animating Fairy, just for foods. Queen of Ice, Brazen Borrower, turn into Pumpkin Moonlit Scavengers. I'm gonna check. Maybe we actually are still green-black? Because now that I picked up a couple more colorless cards at the very end of that pack, that is a possibility. And then we actually do have some removal. Not gonna play Festive Funeral though. Yeah, it's possible to actually be green-black and have removal. I think I would rather be green-black here. I have to play a couple worse cards, but it's in order to run a couple better cards like Bake Into a Pie. And the Clackbridge Troll's probably not as good as Brazen Borrower, but it's also a bomb, so it's not like we're playing the color that has 0 bombs over the color that had 1. Yeah, we can cut 2 cards out of here. We've got primarily creatures, so I guess we're leaving this random Rosethorn Halberd in here. We don't have that many humans, do we? We only have 3 humans, so yeah, that's not horrible. Just kind of a 1 mana +2/+1 aura. It's like a worse Rancor. 1 mana for +2/+1, and then if it ever falls off, we can just re-equip it later for a lot of mana and get some late game value. 2 cuts, probably just like the Roving Keep and the Prophet of the Peak. Because I'll still have these big plays, and the thing that's really awesome about all 3 of these is that they're like big late game creatures that also have an earlier game adventure that we can cast. They're more flexible than the big cat. Definitely than the Gigantic Wall. I'm definitely cutting the Gigantic Wall. I could see keeping the cat in. It's a little more interesting to me. But then the only other card that we would cut at this point to swap out for a cat would be like a Signpost Scarecrow. And this might just be necessary to help us cast our Bake Into a Pies. As awkward as it is, it fits into the curve really awkwardly too, because we have a lot of 4 mana plays. But it is what it is. I think we have to run that. It is where we're at. Beanstalk Giant's going to be a real team player here. The Fertile Footsteps is huge for this deck. Get our 3rd green when we have Yorvo, or get our 2nd black when we've got Bake Into a Pie. If the mana that we have on turn 2 is Forest, Swamp. Alright. Yep. I think this is going to be the deck. We're going to have to do some adjustments to the mana real quick. And it's going to involve running more forests than you'd think. We have 15 green cards and 6 black cards. We also have a triple green card and a quadruple green card. 11 green sources and 6 black. Pretty rough for those double blacks, but I feel like that's the counts we kind of just need here. And we are crossing our fingers a lot for cards like Beanstalk Giant and Signpost Scarecrow and Rosethorn Acolyte to be there when we need them. When we do draw into Yorvo or Rampart Smasher early. When we don't have mana fixing and stuff, we can just treat these cards as later game plays. They're still fine. You know, Yorvo on turn 4 or Rampart Smasher on turn 5. We have to wait a dramatically long time. That'll be pretty rough, but yeah. Awkward man of the deck. That's where we're gonna keep it here. Alright, here we have a look at the final deck list that we're going to be playing today. It's a pretty sweet, heavy green deck here with a lot of very powerful, big, beefy green creatures. We have Yorvo, really hard to cast, but it is a 4/4 that gets an additional +1/+1 counter whenever we play another green creature, and gets 2 +1/+1 counters if we play a green creature that's bigger than it. So Yorvo is an absurd bomb. We have double Fierce Witch Stalker, great aggressive creature at common, a 4/4 trampler here. Rampart Smasher, another gigantic threat, pretty hard to cast again, but we have a couple different ways we're trying to fix our mana here to help our 2-color deck hit these heavy green costs. We have the Rosethorn Acolyte, being able to use its ability to tap for a green, or its ability to use the Seasonal Ritual earlier in the game to help hit a black source when we haven't drawn a swamp, because we do have a very low swamp to forest ratio. We've also got Signpost Scarecrow for more mana filtering, and we have the Fertile Footsteps of the Beanstalk Giant to pull out whatever basic land we need. So a few little ways to mana fix to hopefully help us, but that is going to be the biggest flaw in this deck today is the mana. Some greedy, big, beefy cards, but I am ready to get mana screwed a few times. I'm ready for that to be a possibility, but yeah, pretty good looking deck here. Just a really solid curve of creatures. Some great creatures at all different mana costs. Some very big beef, including a Clackbridge Troll potentially. Good old Reaper of Night, Twin Veil Treefolk for giant creatures with adventures, Beanstalk Giant as well. Another just big late game threat that has an early game adventure, which is nice. And then for our non-creature spells, pretty basic stuff here. A couple Bake into a Pie, so we actually have a little bit of removal. And then Trail of Crumbs is the coolest thing going on non-creature wise. This is going to turn all of our food tokens into straight up value. I think Trail of Crumbs is probably going to be one of the best cards in the deck, because now every time we're sacking a food token, we're getting to look at the top 2 cards of our library and put a permanence from them into our hand, which almost everything in our deck is a permanence. The only time we can miss off of our Trail of Crumbs is if there's 2 Bake into a Pies on top, which is incredibly, incredibly unlikely. If there's 1 Bake into a Pie in a land, then we can just draw land off of Trail of Crumbs, and if there's literally any other cards in our deck, then we have the choice between those 2 cards. So Trail of Crumbs seems awesome, especially because it makes a food when we play it. We have 2 Fierce Witch Stalkers to make a food. We have 3 Gingerbread Cabins that might be making food late game. So we've got a few ways to trigger it more than one times, which is sweet. We also have the double Bake into a Pie, of course, for food. So not quite a deck where like everything's making a food, but definitely enough food production to utilize this card well. So see how the deck plays out. See how our mana lies as we head into game 1. Okay, here we are, game 1. Couple black cards with no swamp, but that is part of the mana base. We're on 11 green sources and 6 black. We do have a Garenbrigg Squire on 2, which is really awkward with the Halberd, and then we don't have a play till turn 4 if I don't hit a swamp, and even then I need to hit 2 lands to get there. I think this has to be a mulligan. Okay, this is a little bit better. I think we keep this and get rid of Rampart Smasher. We're 2 green sources away from playing Rampart Smasher. We're 1 black source away from Bake into a Pie. And we've got the Trail of Crumbs to dig for lands. Yep, I think we're going to do that. This might be a little greedy, but I'm just going to turn 1 this Wildwood Tracker. And then if I draw lands perfectly, like if I hit an untapped land by turn 3, excellent. Then I get to play Trail of Crumbs, and then on turn 3 play an untapped land, sack the Trail of Crumbs, try to find that next forest as the permanent that we draw off of it, so that I get to get a food token out of this Gingerbread Cabin. And spin the wheel of the Trail of Crumbs again. Alright, Malevolent Noble starts things off for our opponent, which means that we don't get to attack in here. As soon as we get another green source, though, I'll definitely slam down a Clockwork Servant, and then the tracker will be a 2/2 essentially. So for now, we're going to use Trail of Crumbs with our food token. Fingers crossed, another forest. Swamp's good too. We get our Bake into a Pie. Could do that instead, although Occam Adversary is also just a 2-mana 2/3 Death Touch if they play a green permanence, and they are on green. It's actually a difficult choice. These are both incredible, and putting a swamp to the bottom is going to make it real hard to get to Bake into a Pie, because then we'll essentially only have 4 black sources left in the deck. I feel like I'm still going to take Adversary, though. I know it's real greedy, but when my opponent's on green, this card is like extra. It's just extra. Alright, welcome to my face, Malevolent Noble. Another Gingerbread Cabin. Unfortunate. How massively greedy am I? I'm sure you all know by now, I am quite greedy. Am I greedy enough to just pass the turn here? I don't think so. We'll actually play that. Not going to play the Clockwork Servant yet, though. I'm not under much pressure. I'm still at 21 life, and I have multiple ways to make another food token. So we have like 6 more life throughout this game. Okay. Ooh, Reaper of Night. That's exciting. Pretty cool to just play Clockwork Servant here and draw a card. I guess I can't afford to sack a food no matter what I do, so I might as well play one of my more expensive plays, like the Adversary, but then they have the bacon to the pie for it. Which I think they're just holding for here. I don't really want to make them discard when they still have 6 cards to choose from, though. I'm not in love with any of my plays here. Maybe if I play Servant, I can draw into a 2-mana play, because I've got 1 green, 1 black up, so anything for 2 or less I could afford in the deck. Yeah, I'll just go for the Servant here. And this is assuming if they're holding all this mana up, they've got some kind of instant speed interaction. They're probably planning on baking my Adversary into a pie or something like that. And yeah, there's not going to be this amount of thinking. Yeah, so now we got them to bake into a pie a 2-3 with absolutely no abilities instead of a 2-3 Death Touch that draws us cards. So that feels like it worked out really well for us. So happy with how that line panned out. Tall as a beanstalk. That is a very tall Malevolent Noble. We are definitely wanting that swamp now, so we can get the 2-for-1, blowing up that Malevolent Noble with our removal spell. Adversary is 2 mana now, which is awesome. Alright, so we are going to attempt to draw into a swamp, and if we don't, then I might just block the Noble with this Death-Touching Adversary. Because I will have the mana up to do that. Okay, I do have the swamp. Oh, there's our other Death Toucher, though. Let's not get that greedy. I'm not going to put 2 different swamps on the bottom of our library when we only have 5 in the deck at that point. There'd be... That would just be really rough on the mana. So yeah, I think I'm going to play the Adversary because I have nothing else to do with my mana. But then I'm not really planning on blocking Noble. And if our opponent has another removal spell, they might even just blow up the Adversary here. Which would be kind of okay, because the plan isn't to block Noble anyway. Ouch. Well, that is much less okay, because that's a 2-for-1 removal spell. That's a one-sided board wipe. We're still fine, because I can bake the Noble into a pie, and I still have this ridiculous value engine with 3 other ways to make food. Yeah, things are going perfectly fine here. We can grind this game out and easily outvalue our opponent. Out card draw our opponent, just play more cards throughout the course of this game by drawing more cards. Now, if our opponents does not just dump their whole hand out this turn, a Harvest Fear next turn is going to be excellent. Alright, they're going to tap out for a Twin Veil Treefolk. Oh, this Harvest Fear is going to be so good. Reaper of Night is going to do things. I have to take 6 to the face, though, if I don't hold up my bacon to a pie. But it might be worth it to just put them to 0 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Swamp and 3. I can cast both now. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, give me that swamp number 3. Thank you very much, Trail of Crumbs. You are doing incredible work. Alright, we got rid of a bunch of little green boars and a lash of thorns. And now, bake the tree folk into a pie, and we've got another food for our Trail of Crumbs. As well as a big old 4/5, a 4/4 trampler to play. And our opponent is just playing off the top. They did immediately hit some action. That's a 5/5 that can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. That's not good. I think we're still generally in the lead for now, but definitely need my opponent to miss on a turn or two here of action. Another food, or I don't think I need this mana to get this point. I'm just going to get another food. For next turn. And we're going to take one hit from the Paladin, but then we're going to have a 4/4 and a 4/5 so we can double block it. And we'll have 2 food tokens lying around to turn into more card draw to try to pull into the lead again. Deathless Knights. Right? Surprised they didn't pre-combat that and try to trade into Witchstalker. Because they can bring it back to their hand once at least with this food. Okay, Beanstalk Giant's wonderful. Beanstalk Giant is the biggest creature on board by far. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do have the mana to use both of these effects, so I think I do that. Grab another swamp. And here's an 11/11. And then we'll pass the turn. Alright, feels great, feels great. Just keep living the Trail of Crumbs dream over here. We'll play a Reaper of Night after this, though. Clackbridge Troll? Sure. Play the Reaper of Night first, though. I don't think Clackbridge is actually that insane on this board. Whereas Reaper just immediately gets in for damage. It's a 4/5 flyer. Okay. Force a block with Mereleaf Rider. That's actually kind of nice. Force the Paladin to block. And Trail triggers when I sack a food for any reason, even if I sack it to Mereleaf Rider's effect, which is pretty sweet. So I'm going to pre-combat Clackbridge Troll to give them the opportunity to tap it down if they want. And they have a bunch of goat friends. I'm going to hit them with Reaper of Night. They don't tap it down. Okay, if they want to trade 2 things into it, that's fine. Is that fine, or do I just want... I might just want to hold it as a blocker if they're not going to tap it down. Okay, so I can Witchstalker and I can Mereleaf Rider. And I can force their menacing creature to block my Mereleaf Rider next turn. Wicked Guardian, opponent is going to get to draw an additional card here. And Order of Midnight is going to return Twin Veil Treefolk from their graveyard to hand and put a 2/2 flyer that can't block onto the board. Okay. Trigger our Trail of Crumbs here before we do anything. We get a Foulmire Knight. Cast the Foulmire Knight. Hit a Rose Thorn Halberd. This is a Spectre, which is not a human, so I can up the damage I'm doing to my opponent to kill them in 2 turns guaranteed. Play my land for turn, get a Death Touching blocker, still have a food left. And we should kill them in 2 swings from the Reaper of Night now. And we feel pretty safe over here. We're at 18 life with another food token. Alright, they've got 1 turn to draw into an out for our Reaper of Night with a Rosethorn Halberd on it. And they drew into a swamp, so that should be game. Here's the Twin Veil Treefolk. And that's going to be it. That's going to be game. Really huge stuff from Trail of Crumbs there. Just consistently letting us just sort through our whole deck, just keep digging, getting really far ahead. In card advantage, letting us play a lot more onto the board than our opponent could. So yeah, as I said during deck building, I think Trail of Crumbs is probably the strongest card in this deck, and this is a deck with Yorvo and Clackbridge Troll in it. Alright, here we are, game 2 on the play. I will keep this hand. We've got 3 green sources, we just need 1 more black, and we've got pretty much perfect mana. I do have 1 card in the deck that requires quadruple green, so that could be a bit rough, but hopefully we just don't draw into that till we hit another green source. Wildwood Tracker not looking to pop off this game. We have a human alongside it, which is the Nombo. The combo is it with another non-human creature. And then it's just a straight up 1 mana 2/2. Alright, we hit the second black source for the Bacon 2 Pie, so now our mana's pretty perfect. Playing against a red deck here. We're going to keep playing our forests first so we get closer to Gingerbread Cabin, getting us that food value. Don't need to play the second swamp until the turn that I want to cast Bacon to a Pie. Playing the forests first also makes it so if we top deck into Yorvo or the Rampart Smasher, we get to cast them sooner. Alright, Unblockable Ginger Brute coming on in. So far, Mono Red for my opponent. Mono Red is a very scary deck. This is the only strategy I've actually 7-0'd, or not 7-0'd, but 7-win run this time around in the return to Eldraine. I think it was 7-1, maybe it was 7-2. But yeah, Mono Red is really, really good in this format. I think it's the best of all of the mono-colored draft builds you can do. Alright, here's a Raging Red Cap. Few ways that red can make some good use of that. The most common one is the Rimrock Knight to give it +2/+0 till end of turn. So that can threaten for a pretty brutally large amount of damage. Kind of want to just play the Swamp and hold up a Bacon to a Pie. There is an amount of temptation to just play a Wildwood Tracker, so these are 2/2s essentially. Yeah, I guess playing a Wildwood Tracker is fine. Because like worst case scenario here, whatever trick they have to make the red cap giant is just gonna kill my 1 mana play. So it's not terrible for me. There's some idiot right outside my window with the loudest speakers in their truck I've ever heard. I hope you can't you can't hear that. It's like they brought the whole rave to right outside my room. They're literally shaking the window blinds. Okay, Jesus. Okay, we have drawn the forest, so we have the triple green that we need for gingerbread cabins to start popping off, which is pretty cool. Opponent didn't have any kind of wild tricks there, so they just drop down a 3-4 and pass. 3-4 is big enough to stop my aggression here unless I want to bake into a Pyet. I could bake into a Pyet and then attack with everybody, and then they can trade into one of the 2/2s and take 4, go down to 8. That might be okay. But don't think I want that. Ferocity of the Wilds. Okay, so that is another pretty scary way they can synergize with the Raging Red Cap. The truck is off now. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty bad. This is pretty dang bad for me. If they have a Rimrock Knight in hand, they get to 2-for-1 me really hard now. I guess that's already a 2-for-1. They kill both my trackers. I kill their 1 red cap. So they get to 3-for-1 me if they have a Rimrock Knight. Ferocity of the Wilds is doing stuff and things. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go to 8. Crack back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They go to 6 life. Maybe we're on Team Crackback here. I think I bake. Hard choice between the red cap and the errant. Red cap's more explosive, but the errant makes it more difficult for us to chump later. I think I blow up the red cap. Just take 6 and go to 12 instead. Alright, well, we are running out of gas here. This is not where we want to be against mono red. Still can't make any super good blocks. I can trade my noble into the errant if I sack both of my food tokens, then I block 7 dwarves and the ginger brute. I can get rid of most of their threats, but since I didn't draw into any gas, I kind of just have to be on blocks here. Try to trade my board state into their board state and hope they didn't draw anything else here. Alright, sorry about that. I've been checking on my cat. She's been freaking out since the truck. Looks like we're just dead. 3 creatures can't block this turn. 2, 6, 8, 11, 12, 13. Now we're not quite dead. I can just eat the food. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, I guess we already weren't dead. I miscounted. Might hear some random meows in the background. Probably not. It looks like the noise cancellation is working pretty well on the mic. It looks like you didn't hear the truck at all. But, yeah, the cat is in my bedroom as I record now. Okay. Yeah, I didn't need to sack that food. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, Clockwork Servant is something. Draw a card. Rampart Smashers. Also something. I can't cast it right now, but thanks to this gingerbread cabin, I have enough food for the Ogre Errant to get blocked by the Noble. I take one from Gingerbrute, guaranteed. We hope they have nothing in hand so that I can put Servant on Dwarves, Tracker on a 1/1, Noble on Errant. I can attack them with one Tracker here. If they have pretty much anything in hand, I'm going to kind of die regardless, so I think I need to chip in for what tiny bit of damage I can to make it more possible that I can turn things into a lethal crackback. That's pretty bad for me. That messes up my math a bit. Now I am actually going to get trampled over for 1 and take 2 from Gingerbrute, so I've got a 1 life instead of 2. Oh, and I don't get to kill the 7 dwarfs on this block anymore. Yeah, 7 dwarfs off the top was just a really good draw. They don't attack with the 1/1 dwarf, though. Okay. Well, then never mind. I just double block the 7 dwarfs, and this works out exactly how it was going to before. Still much more likely than not just dead, but we have decent blocks for this outside of Gingerbrute. So after this, I have 2 2/2s to block with. Oh, okay. They just have the trick anyway. Then we are still dead. Rough game there. Mono red is a very, very powerful archetype in the format, and ran a little low on gas there. Apologies about the outside distractions in that game. Hopefully they're over now. There's still some ridiculous noises happening outside the window, but now I have cats in my room to keep me company. So we can chill out and vibe together and just ignore all that. All right, here we are in game 3 with a pretty good hand. Go for the keep here. I need to draw 2 more forests for this to come into play untapped and give the food, so I'm just going to get it out of the way right now. So we are not that likely to draw that soon. Opponent starts with a turn 1 Flaxen Intruder, which is pretty sweet for us, because that lets us play a turn 2 Occam Adversary. It's probably going to get trapped in the tower or something here, but I hope not. That is not suspicious at all. Alright, they're just going to play the adventure anyway. Well, this means we get to draw a card off Occam Adversary. I'm very happy with that. Alright, we are now up a card, and we just have a Garenbrig Squire. That's it here. Alright, we're still a deck that always plays the green sources first after we've got 1 black down. We want to have that 1 black down so that when I need to play a Bacon to a Pie, I can just go Swamp Bacon to a Pie. But we also want to play Forest first, so that as soon as I hit Yorvo, I'm just like Forest Yorvo. Okay, we're out of forests now. I think I play the land first so I can hold up bacon to a pie. If they try to cast an adventure on Flaxen Intruder to beat our adversary, it's going to go really, really badly for them. Like, devastatingly badly. Yeah, so now we get to blow up their Garenbrig Carver, save our adversary, and kill their intruder all in one swoop. Awesome. That feels pretty good. Now they have a Garenbrig Carver. We'll need to get that out of the way if we want to hit with adversary again, but I could also just make it so my opponent has 0 cards in hand, which is also always a good feeling. Reaper of Night, put in some work. We get rid of a Twin Veil Treefolk and a land. I could trade adversary into Carver, and then they're playing exclusively off the top while we have 5 cards to play with. But I think adversary is valuable enough to just let them have a 3-2 on board for now. Alright, well, Trap in the Tower off the top will stop the adversary. 6 mana, so I can Beanstalk Giant and still play the Scarecrow, which is big enough to stop Carver from doing anything. We actually do still need more green sources here, so we grab the forest so that we have the 4 green in case I draw the Rampart Smasher. Alright, opponent is 2 for 2 on draws here, trapped in a tower into Flutterfox, pretty great, but now we have a Trail of Crumbs, which is like the best card in our deck. So, feels pretty great. We'll drop that, not sacking any food yet, because we've also got a Troll to play. They only have 5 power on board, so if they don't tap this, we'll attack. They do tap it, so we'll gain some life and draw a card. Alright, opponent missed on draw number 3. Okay, we still got cards for days off this Clackbridge Troll. So we could just keep playing more threats. I don't need to do any Trail of Crumbs work yet. So let's play a Reaper of Night, which is a giant flying threat. Put a Halberd on it so it's an even bigger flying threat, and then I can even Twin Veil Treefolk it next turn. And they're just going to scoop them up. I think they hit dead draw again. And meanwhile, we're just drawing a million cards a turn thanks to Clackbridge Troll and Trail of Crumbs. So really, really nasty stuff there again from our card draw engines, even showing off the Oakham adversary putting in some work on that front as well. Well, 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 look who's decided to show up. We've got Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrig in this opening hand. If we can hit one more green source by turn 3, we're going to play the biggest card in our deck. We've also got Trail of Crumbs, the best card in our deck, and a decent start with a Wildwood Tracker and a Foulmire Knight, so I'm definitely going to keep this hand, and fingers crossed here we hit a forest sometime. And we'll hit it immediately. Now I've got a great turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 curve. Keep this Foulmire Knight out of this, because I'd like to turn 3 a Yorvo. Playing against blue-black, well, this may be the best hand that we've drawn so far, but we are against the best archetype in the format. Hopefully they don't punish us too hard here, they don't mill us too hard, they didn't say please our Yorvo and then cast 2 Secret Keepers, and then run away together, bounce a card, and recast a Secret Keeper to mill us 4 more cards. Hopefully this is not that kind of blue-black deck. Hopefully it's like the blue-black deck that we started as pack 1 in this draft, where it was just blue-black good stuff. Alright, they have nothing yet, and they definitely do not have double blue for didn't say please, so I'm just going to cast Yorvo here so that the tracker hits for 2, and then pass the turn. Now they do have the double blue. They could Charmed Sleep our Yorvo. I'd be pretty unhappy with that. But it's better than it having gotten countered, at least. Because now the tracker gets to attack as a 2-power creature, even if I don't have another creature out, because Yorvo's just going to be sitting there. Opponent has pulled out the rope, and they are definitely thinking. They are going to turn Yorvo into a pumpkin, and we'll have to just recast Yorvo then, while our opponent is tapped out. This is fine by me. I would like to draw a card off of the Foulmire Knight's Profane Insight, so I'm not going to drop that down right now. 5 mana up, Sage of the Falls, a 2/5 blocker, not big enough to block Yorvo next turn because we're going to play another green creature and trigger that ability. So, yep, Fierce Witchstalker. Yorvo's a 5/5, which can get in still. Put our opponent down to 10 as they try to draw into removal here. Wicked Guardian draws them another card. They are digging deep. They can double block Yorvo now. They do have a turn into a pumpkin to put on top of their library if they want. They're considering whether or not they want to do that because that would definitely be their play for next turn. That would guarantee they don't have the hard removal. Now that I have a Bake into a Pie, I think I attack with everybody because I feel like they're probably going to double block Yorvo. If they don't, I can lose some of these smaller creatures here. The only creature that's at risk of dying for nothing is Wildwood Tracker. Alright, and it looks like I am just going to clear their board. Feels wonderful. They are down to 4 life now. And they're just going to scoop them up. They have a turn into a pumpkin to cast, but if they do that, they're still dealing with 6 power on board between the Witchstalker and the Wildwood Tracker. So that's going to be our third victory. We're going to be 3-1 now, at least an average run today. Alright, here we are in game 5. We're 3-1. This is a pretty solid hand. Really low on green mana for our land distribution here, but we haven't drawn any of our cards that require more green mana yet, so hopefully the mana doesn't pan out too poorly for us. We're going to start with Merrileaf Rider. If I can hit a forest, that would be beautiful, because then I get to play the Halberd and the Squire here. Although it looks like they just have their own Merrileaf Rider, so these are likely to just trade for each other anyway. And that is what's going to occur. Now I'll play a Garenbrig Squire. Alright, 4 mana and no play. Well, let's just get some counters on the Squire then. There's nothing for triple green at instant speed that's going to kill my Squire when I try to adventure it. It is important in this format with adventures, when you have adventures that target creatures, always make sure you check how much mana your opponent has up. If it's likely that they have an instant, generally you should just not cast your adventure that targets a creature, because if it's an instant that targets your creature and like kills it, then you're going to kill your adventure creature as well. So I didn't play the Halberd because Garenbrig Squire is a human, so it doesn't auto-attach to that, so I'm just going to hold up Bake into Pies. I can hold up the Bake into Pies even if I do cast the Halberd, but I'd rather be able to spend 1 mana to get the Halberd on something than 5 to get it on something, which I would have to do if it's on board. Alright. Perfect targets for Bake into a Pie. So I will just blow that up. We've got a Malevolent Noble now. Cannot play that and hold up Bake into a Pie. Still probably fine. If I need to bake something into a pie, I can just do it on my next turn. Feasting Troll King, well. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's a 7/6 Vigilance Trample that comes with 3 food, and they can just sack all the food next turn to bring it back? So it's just going to come back even if I kill it. Really smart play by my opponent by not attacking, because I could have killed them if they did. Still a tiny chance I can kill them. Not a super massive chance, but I am going to buff the Noble. Okay. I can't kill them, but I force a chump block with the Raiders. This is brutal. Because if I bake into a Pie Troll King, I can then play a Swamp, make Noble a 4/4, attack both. They're forced into a chump block, they go to 4. Then they sack those, get the Troll King back, and they can still, because they get it back to the battlefield for free. So they can still play more blockers there. So sure, they'll be down to 4, but they probably just don't die. I feel like I play this Twin Veil Treefolk instead. But then I'm going to get got really hard by a combat trick if I try to kill this Troll King by blocking. But then it's like if they don't have a trick and I can kill it off of a block and force them to reanimate it, then I know I can bake into a pie and it's permanently gone. Oh, if they just have out muscle, we're pretty out of this game. And a halberd onto the Raiders. Attack both. Oh, do they just lose? Do they just lose is the question. 13? I guess they can sack a food so they don't just lose, but it's not going to be great for them. All right, they can only return the king during their turn. I think I need to eat a food of my own here. So if I attack with Squire Noble, I can sack this food, threaten 8 damage, but then they eat a food and kill me with Raiders. If I attack with both and then just eat a food on the crackback, I force them to bring back the Troll King, and I'm still alive. It's where I attack with both and kill them if they don't have another creature, so then they couldn't attack me back with Raiders. This is going to be a really close game. I probably should have just traded with Raiders with Nobles on the block there. Oh no, they've got a Treefolk as well. I forgot about that. I say I forgot about that. Was that in exile? I don't remember them putting 2 counters on something. I think that was just in their hand, unrevealed. So I think I just didn't know about that. Okay, they are just going to pass the turn. No, alright, we need to draw into something. Actually, I think we needed to draw into something there, now we just die to trample. Dang it. Well, that's rough. I think I should have traded for Red Cap Raiders instead of going for the full swing on the crackback. But I would have lost there too. Because then now in this position, they'd still have Troll King and Treefolk versus my 1 Squire. Or did I just die? Six, 7, 8 mana. 6 mana to equip Halberd is something and 2 to sack the food. I am still dead because of trample. But that's the best I can do. I can block and kill the troll thing, but I take 2 damage from that. I'm essentially at 2 life. Chump block the Treefolk. Take 5 when I'm at 5 after I gain life from the food. Actually 6, because the Troll King's Vigilance, which means it gives the Raiders an extra power every time it attacks. Rough game. Really close one, but Troll King is just 2 bombs in 1. A 7/6 Vigilance Trample that is guaranteed to come back once. Too good for us. Here we are in game 6. We are now 3-2. This hand is super bad mana-wise. We are on 11 green sources, 6 black sources, so it's just pretty poor luck on this one, but it is going to have to be a mulligan. Alright, this is significantly better. Kind of want to just get rid of Scarecrow, but that does make us have a lot of lands here, especially with Beanstalk Giant, but if I keep the double forest, I can guarantee with Beanstalk Giant I go forest, pull out another forest, then Gingerbread Cabin, get the food out of it for full value. For if we get our Trail of Crumbs or anything like that. Maybe I just get rid of the Swamp here. Well, I do have double black cards in the deck. I think I'm getting rid of the Scarecrow. Let's have our quadruple green ready, drawn to our Rampart Smasher. Turn 1 Eye Collector, so they can start milling us and messing up our draws. Looks like a black-green mirror match. We milled an Oakham Adversary, that's brutal. That card would be really good in this matchup. And here's a Malevolent Noble now. We've got the second black, so we are definitely Beanstalk Gianting into a forest for our Gingerbread Cabin to pop off. No blocks. Take 3 now. Fierce Witchstalker is the draw. That's actually pretty great here. I think I just cast that. And then I am threatening the Wildwood Tracker attacking and blocking as a 2/2. So probably just send in with that, hold the 4/4 to block the Noble. Seems good. Rose, stop messing with the closet. There's nothing in there for you. Alright, they played a blue source, so they're on 3 colors here. They could have more mill. They've milled a Merrily Fighter and a forest. They milled their Beanstalk Giant Animating Fairy. Okay. Draw another land here. Does mean we're only 1 turn away from Beanstalk Giant, and that will definitely happen. Attack both, holding up a bacon to a pie. This cat is just trying to open every closet. Every drawer she can find. Oh, sorry, opponent. So tiny. Okay. It's a 2/4. Sack the Eye Collector. I like the timing on that, because that means I can blow up the Noble pre-combat and still get my damage in. I am a big fan of that. Emery, Lurker of the Loch. They're going to self-mill, and they can play artifacts from their grave. There's none in there yet. There's a Scalding Cauldron. Scalding Cauldron Emery is pretty nasty. Luckily for us, we've got some creatures that are definitely too big to get blown up by a Scalding Cauldron. But our Wildwood Tracker is likely to get blown up by some soup. Just fling some soup right at it. But here's a Beanstalk Giant that cannot get blown up by the soup. Rose. Up. Stop doing that. Reeve Soul on the Fierce Witch Stalker. If they tap to replay the soup, they just die on board because they don't have a blocker. Unless they play a 1-mana blocker as well this turn. Okay. Dead on board it is. And they scoop them up. We are now 4-2, breaking even with this draft. Alright, here we are now in Game 7. Pretty good mana here, but a lack of early game plays makes the hand a bit sketchy. I think it's still going to be a keep for me, but just barely. It's very borderline. Need 2 more forests before I can play this for a food. I'll probably just play it now. Gonna need double green untapped turn 4. And I don't want to draw into like a 2-mana play and a 3-mana play and then not have a good place to fit in a tap land. Okay. I'm going to play a Swamp here. The only card in my deck that I couldn't cast next turn now would be Rampart Smasher. Yeah, we're going to focus primarily on green sources as we have been, so if we do draw into Rampart Smasher with another forest, we just slam that thing down. This is a Didn't Say Please. We'll play a stupid little Scarecrow. It is not a Didn't Say Please. Okay. Well, then we have a stupid little Scarecrow. A little silly friend. Trail of Crumbs would be pretty awesome to set up while they can't counter things, so I think I'm going to go Acolyte Trail of Crumbs here. Happy to have tested the water for the counterspell with the Scarecrow. Hopefully they didn't just now draw into it. Well, they have interaction now that they didn't have before. It could be turned into a pumpkin here as their instance. Ooh, it's Hypnotic Sprite, so it just could not counter 4-mana or larger plays, is what the counterspell was. Well, as much as I love casting Reaper of Night's Harvest Fear, it does suck to be on the other end of it. But now we know our opponent's tapped out. Fierce Witch Stalker definitely resolves. And we can get those cards back off these food tokens. Not the ones that we discarded, but we can get the amount of cards we discarded into our hand off the top now. Over time, make up for our lost cards. Opponent has a full group of 7 cards here, which is not ideal for us. 5 cards in hand and 2 adventures. Does feel like we're pretty far behind. Hope this Beanstalk Giant works out. We don't have double blue. Alright, cool, it does. Got the 3 mana to crack a food and try to draw a card off of it. Or I can play a Garen Bridge Squire instead. Just commit more stuff to the board. Pretty cool with that. Play all of our threats first. Opponent has a Fairy Vandal now. They are down to 10 life, so whatever happens from here on, at least we've chipped away at half their life total by now. Doesn't look like the things that happen from here on are going to be that good for us, but Trail of Crumbs, again, can make up for a bit of the differential in cards that we have here, where we look miles behind, but Trail of Crumbs just makes us, you know, maybe a half mile behind. Like 100 yards or something. Alright, well, Foulmire Knight is another 2-for-1 card. They've just got 2-for-1 value plays all day long. Ooh, Clackbridge Troll. 8 trampling power. Kind of a big deal when you're at 9 life. I think I just slammed this thing down. That can also make up for some of the cards that we are behind by. Yep, they're gonna give us the card draw and the life gain. Definitely send in the Fierce Witch Stalker. I think that's it though. If they want to kill Fierce Witch Stalker, they block with Foulmire Knight, or they have to double block with their flyers. This just dies to Vandal, this just bounces off Vandal. I guess Scarecrow's a fine attacker as well here, because worst that happens is it just bounces off. Ooh, this is very cool with me. I actually get to kill something with it. Cool, get that out of the way. Trample over for 3, they're down to 6. Alright. Forest, pass the turn. Order of Midnight. This is just the nuts adventure value deck here. Adventures are just inherently pretty powerful. They make all your cards do the value of 2 different spells off of just 1 card. And there's been a lot of adventures over there. Again, Clackbridge Troll and Trail of Crumbs putting in work here. Our opponent's life total is quite low, so we're getting close to killing them here. They're definitely going to have to tap the Troll down again this turn. Sitting at 5 life with 6 toughness to block with. Probably want to use the Trail of Crumbs pre-combat here, although 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. If I want to play Beanstalk Giant, that's all I get to do this turn, and this is when I know they don't have a counterspell. They only have 1 blue up, so I probably should just play Beanstalk Giant instead of sacking any crumbs. We'll see what I draw off of the Troll first, at least. Foulmire Knight, that is interesting. I'm pretty sure we're playing Beanstalk Giant. Yep, sure are. Alright, death-touching little Foulmire Knight to block our Beanstalk Giant. Still don't have anything that blocks the Clackbridge Troll that well. Have I played any removal? No, I still have my 2 Bacon to a Pies in the deck, which is sweet. Opponent taps out for Unexplained Vision. They still have 2 mana up, so I guess not quite tapping out, but it is another huge value play. Opponent's got a lot of great card draw in the deck, and Fairy Vandal's getting out of hand. It's a 4/5 now. Land for turn. Midnight Clock. Oh my god, I've already lost to a lot of Midnight Clocks. We need to close this game out real quickly now, because if Midnight Clock pops off, it pretty much wins the game on the spot. You draw a fresh hand of 7 new cards after shuffling your graveyard back into library. It is an absolutely absurd Magic the Gathering card. Let's Foulmire Knight. Profane Insight. Gingerbread Cabin. Alright, well. More food for the Trail of Crumbs. Reaper of Night's a big one. Can't play it this turn, but it's still a big one. Rampart Smasher's another big one. Probably going to draw another card off this Trail of Crumbs here. Not sure I want to send Giant into the Foulmire Knight right now. Rather play my own Foulmire Knight or just draw another card off Crumbs. At 5 life, even just poking them for 1 a turn's a thing. 7, 8, 9 mana. Not gonna have the mana to use the adventure and play the Reaper next turn, which is rough. I think I'll just draw a card here. The one thing I don't like about going for the card draw is that the best draw in our deck right now is Bake into a Pie, and we can't draw Bake into a Pie off Trail of Crumbs. Other than that, though, just picking up more threats to try to really slam a bunch of stuff down before Midnight Clock goes off feels like a solid plan. Uh-oh. If I make them discard 2, that thing can't block at least. But that is gonna mill. Not super worried about this attacking, I'm just worried about the mill mainly, because I've got a lot of life off of all this food. Okay. Well, Garenberg Squire in a land, so Garenberg Squire it is. We've dug closer to our removal, but we still have not found it. There are 2 Bake into a Pies out of these 16 cards. Opponent has had 1 counterspell all game, but now they have a bunch of mana up, so if there was ever a time they were going to have one, it would be now. I guess they'd counter the Reaper either way, whichever half we cast, so we cast the Harvest Sphere to test the water. And also it is decently impactful here, even though we won't be able to cast the other half of this, I'll still be able to play Rampart Smasher plus Squire this turn. May I please cast a Harvest Fear? Don't know if this is resolving yet. Opponent's in the think tank. They could pop the Witching Well first. Yeah, I guess we can't get it to where Vantress Gargoyle can't block because they have access to Witching Well for a draw 2 right now. Alright, they used all of their ropes, but they are going to crack the Witching Well. Okay, and then they are going to discard an island and a Reeve Soul. So we'll move to combat. They're going to sack Order of Midnight to tap the Troll. They can still block with the Vantress Gargoyle, unfortunately. But pretty sure they're just blocking with Foulmire Knight, if anything. Oh! I guess we do get to attack with Troll this turn, but if I do, now they can block with Fairy Vandal Vantress Gargoyle? This means Garen Big Squire gets in for damage then. Right, because they trade the Death Toucher into the 9/9, and then they double block the Troll and take 2. Unless they have a turn into a pumpkin. Because the only mana they have up is blue, so they can't have like a bake into a pie of their own. So we put them to 3 life here. If I had a bake into a pie, this would be where I just win on the spot, which is unfortunate. But this still seems pretty good. They're really, really low on creatures now. I had no idea they were going to let the Clackbridge Troll in this turn. I didn't know attacks were going to be this good. If I did, I would have played my adventure creature before, the Foulmire Knight, pre-combat. They had a Mystical Dispute the whole time. That's why they couldn't counter my earlier stuff. Alright, well, both of these creatures are lethal damage. If I can get one of them through, because I can play an adventure next turn, so they're both 3/3s. Mystical Sanctuary is going to put... Oh, that makes it so the Gargoyle camp, they have no blockers now, but they have Unexplained Vision on top of their library. Please no opt. Oh, they've got the Lock Dragon to draw discard, so they draw into the Unexplained Vision, and then they get to cast that, draw 3 back to 4 cards in hand for the Vantress Gargoyle. So they do have 2 blockers again. That puts them to mostly tapped out, though, if they do that. Yeah, they have double black up, so I still win if I top deck Bake into a Pie here. And there's 2 in these 16 cards. Alright, do I Trail of Crumbs first? Does that make us any more likely to hit one? No, because it's just as likely to be in the top 2 as it would elsewhere, and if it's in the top 2, I put it on bottom. Guaranteed, so yeah, I don't actually Trail of Crumbs. Alright, that's just a land. Again, if I can draw bake into a pie, I just straight win right now. 8, 9, 10 mana. Means I can afford to sack a food, try to draw into my 3 mana 2/3 that I can play that draws another card, and then play bake into a pie off that. Yeah, because I need to play Foulmire Knight, Bake into a Pie, and the 3 mana 2/3. I can afford to do that. If I hit the 3 mana 2/3 and then that draws Bake into a Pie, I can win this turn. Okay, that's not that, but Gingerbread Cabin and Yorvo are both pretty sick. 5, 6, 7 mana. I could play Reaper of Night this turn, or I can play Yorvo and Foulmire. This is kind of weird, but I think I just want more food because I want to play Reaper of Night this turn. And that gives me another spin next turn to try to hit the bake into a pie. I'm not even sure if it's going to be guaranteed lethal next turn though, because they could just end up having drawn like 3 creatures off this Unexplained Vision. We've had outs this game. We haven't drawn any of the outs yet. That is a really bad start. Only 2 mana for them to get another blocker here. Cats, stop fighting. Okay. Okay, now they just have infinite mana up again. They're not playing Reaper of Night, so they have interaction here. Probably bad news for us. Rosethorn Halberd. Does not really do anything right now. They're in there somewhere, I swear. I can't draw them off Trail of Crumbs, but I could draw the Golem. The Golem is also in there somewhere. That's very okay with me. They need to discard another card for this Reaper to get in, but now the Vantress Gargoyle can't block. Wait, now the Vantress Gargoyle can't block now. If that's it for interaction, this is just lethal. Because they played a card. I mean, we're going to go for it. They've got an instant speed card draw spell, they just get us here, but... Let's see. They've got to have more instant speed interaction than just that. So tiny. Oh, that's brutal. At least they have to trade in the Squires. Yeah, that's super rough. Make the Reaper of Night completely useless. Well, Foulmire Knight is now lethal damage. So they're going to have to block with that. But Midnight Clock, we're out of time now. Midnight Clock 100% Triggers next turn, and then we lose. Single Reaper of Night, do we get the bacon to a pie? Oh, they play Sprite here as well? Or they should play Sprite here as well. Nope, we get a land. Cats, stop. Yep, I mean, I guess they win. We had tons of opportunities. It genuinely feels like if we drew a bacon to a pie at almost any point in this game, we'd have lethal. Obviously, we can't know how often they had that drown in the lock, but so many places we just got tremendously close, but just no gas. Brutal way to end it here. But well played from our opponent. Kept gripping on for dear life, just long enough to trigger the clock and win the game. Because we have ran out of gas. Okay, I'm already guaranteed to lose. I'm not going to let them cast my own card against me here. Four and 3 it is in the end. Kind of some weird games there. I think the biggest flaw in this deck didn't really come up. I think the mana worked out pretty excellently. Obviously Signpost Scarecrow was not very good. We did have to draw into some of our kind of jank cards, our more filler cards that we got since we pivoted so late. But does feel like some of the losses were just some brutally good stuff from our opponent. I'm going to cut the video now. I gotta go play with these cats, or they're just never gonna shut up. They are losing their collective minds. All right. Overperformers, underperformers, not really anything. Tracker was like a little awkward. Sometimes it was pretty solid. Sometimes it wasn't great. That's what I expected. Garenberg Spires weren't very good, but I just needed 2 drops. Trail of Crumbs, easily the best card in the deck. Did some excellent work. The double bacon to a pie was really good. I'm happier with the green-black version than I think I would have been in the green-blue version. I think if I had more solidly picked black earlier in the draft over the blue, we could have had, you know, probably this Signpost Scarecrow swapped out for another good black card, and then these Garenberg Squires, just a couple better 2-drops, and this could have been like a 7-win deck. But as it stands, a little bit of some filler weaker cards, and we do end up drawing and casting some filler poop at times, which can make our deck just that 3 damage off from quick enough to win games like that last round. So 4 and 3, still a respectable run, still better than I thought it would do during the draft, like at the start of pack 3, where we were a little all over the place trying to solidify into as close to mono green as possible. So deck did better than I thought it would during the draft. Once I looked at the deck list, though, I feel like this deck list can do a little better than 4-3, but close enough. Still a good draft, still basically breaking even, and that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoyed this draft and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe in order to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. And once again, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.